Hey, I'm Rebecca. I'm an educator here at Hunt's Photo and Video. I'm also a full-time wedding photographer. I'm here today to talk about masking in Lightroom. If you're not using masking in Lightroom, you're missing out. Why? It's a super powerful way to make localized edits to our images that are targeted and intentional to help really refine and elevate our photos and our edits. Global edits are edits to our image that affect the entire image. So when we're under our basic sliders here, every edit we make in the tone curve, the color mixture, these are all global edits. So it affects the entire image. If I bring my exposure slider all the way to the left here, I am bringing down the exposure of every single part of my image, right? Localized edits are more targeted. They allow us to affect very specific areas of our image so that way we can make really refined adjustments. So how do we do this in Lightroom? We have this little circle icon here. That is our masking. So clicking that, now we have access to all of the tools for masking. You'll notice that there are a lot of options here. So we have subject select, sky select, background select, all AI tools that help you intelligently select those areas. I'll say they work 9 times out of 10. We have the object tool, brush tool, linear gradient, radial gradient, and then we can select specific people. The more people you have in the image, the more you will see populated right here. So we have this image here. I've made all of my global adjustments. I'm nearly ready to go, but I need to make some final adjustments. So what you'll notice in this image very specifically, this couple, they're in this little kind of garden space surrounded by the hydrangeas, very New England, very Massachusetts wedding, right? Very iconic in that way. But the problem here is that the sun is out, it is shining, and so we are getting that green reflection back onto our subject, and we're really seeing it predominantly in their clothing and that beautiful white wedding dress. So we're gonna take away that kind of green effect. We're also going to target his shirt, which is giving this sort of purplish, bluish kind of tone to it. And we are gonna correct for her arm where it's a little bit dark right there. So we're going to navigate over to this circle here. This is our masking. When I open this window, I have all of these options for different types of masks I can make. I have subject, sky, and background selection tools that allow me to select those spaces intelligently using AI. We have object, brush, linear gradient, radial gradient, and then we can select specific people within our image. So I'm gonna start with person 2 here. That is our groom. So when I select person 2, so you'll see this red mask. Anything with a red mask, that's what we're targeting. So you'll see beyond person 2, we have options for different parts of his body, but then also his clothing. So for right now, I'm just gonna make a mask for his clothing, and I'm gonna select create mask. And so now I have my mask and we're nearly there. We do have to refine this mask a little bit further. You'll notice that we did get some masking on his fingers, on his knuckles. There's a little bit on her arm there. And I also wanna take away the masking on his white shirt because we're not quite there yet where we're going to correct for his shirt. We're just focusing on the suit itself with that green kind of reflection. So right here in the masking panel, I'm going to select subtract. That's going to allow me to subtract from the mask that I've just created. So now I'm going to select objects. I'm very specifically selecting my object tool. I find that this is an easier tool to work with than the brush. The brush, you have to be really good at coloring inside the lines, something I am not good at doing. Sorry, all art school professors. But I'm gonna use my objects tool. Work smarter, not harder. So I am going to make a selection just for his sleeve right here. We're gonna start there. And you'll notice I'm not trying really hard. I just already colored outside of the lines. Oh well, Lightroom knew exactly what I was trying to do. I'm gonna select subtract again, bit of a tongue twister. Again, favoring that objects tool. And now I'm gonna get that little V space right there. And maybe the bow tie. And it got just the bow tie, so now we're gonna select, this is the V space right there. Okay, and now let's attack his collar right here and also getting those knuckles while we're at it. Great. And now I am going to select subtract again, and I am gonna take that brush tool and I'm just gonna brush away the mask that appeared on her arm and hit the edge of his hand right there. So now I have a really good refined mask. And just one more time, I am gonna select the object tool and I'm going to subtract the mask from his boutonniere because I also wanna keep that intact. And there we go. Okay, so now our mask is good to go. So how do I correct for that green reflection from the grass that we're seeing on his suit? My preferred option would be to come down to the point color tool. The point color tool allows me to attack a very specific color within my masked area. So if I select my eyedropper tool and I come over to my image here, I'm gonna select that area with the green reflection on his pants. And now you'll see here under point color, I have this little kind of mucky kind of green shade. That's the reflection of the grass that we're seeing. So we're just gonna use our saturation slider and completely desaturate that green. We don't need it here. It's not doing anything for us. And that did a pretty good job. There is still a little bit of green, and the reason we still see that little bit of green is because it's a slightly different shade than the green that we just selected. So again, we're gonna select the point color again and navigate to that other space. It's a little bit grayer than the green previously. Again, we're gonna desaturate that as well. Fantastic. Now on a second look, I do see a little bit of purple happening here in his vest. So now while we're here, why don't we just get that? So you'll notice if I zoom back out, we've really eliminated that green. And now you can really see the progress we've made. If I hover over mask one, I get these three dots that pop up and this little eye icon. If I hit the three dots, we can rename our mask. And I'm just gonna name this green. I like to rename my masks so that way I know what each mask is targeting. The more masks you have, the harder it is to know which mask is targeting what. So giving yourself a little bit of a hint can be really helpful. And then this eyeball right here. If I poke the eyeball, you'll notice that I see that green again. So what I'm doing when I click the eyeball or poke the eyeball is that I'm turning off that edit temporarily. And so I can see what my edit looked like before the masking on his suit and after, before and after. We made a big change without doing much at all. That's the power of masking. Minimal effort for a big reward. The juice is gonna be always worth the squeeze, even though the squeeze here isn't that much. So now we need to make another mask. We're going to target her wedding dress. So we're going to click this plus sign right here to create a completely new mask. When I do that, I'll see this drop-down menu pop up. This drop-down menu is the same, it has the same exact tools that we saw when we first started creating masks. It's just displayed a little bit differently now because we already have an existing mask. So again, I'm going to select people, this time person one, because that's our bride. And we're going to also check off clothes, create mask. So now we have a mask for her wedding dress. Again, same thing. I'm gonna go down to the point color. I'm going to hover over the area that has that little green reflection, and we're gonna click there and desaturate that green. I'm also going to attack the blue that's happening on the train of her dress. So again, going to point color, grabbing that eyedropper tool and coming over to the train of her dress and clicking the areas that have that blue kind of color cast to it and desaturating that as well. Now you'll see that I'm not desaturating it much. I'm about -20 when I started seeing it kind of disappear. So I can go as far as I want. I could completely desaturate it if I wanted to, but I really stopped seeing it about here. So I'm gonna call it good there. To each their own. I'm also going to bring up my shadows just a little bit, and I'm gonna bring up my whites just a little bit, just to really accentuate the white wedding dress. This is looking pretty good so far. Now the next thing I wanna do is take care of the blue that's happening on his white shirt. So I'm gonna zoom in again. I'm going to create another mask, and this time I am gonna use my objects tool just to select that V area and his sleeve, because that's really the only areas where I'm seeing it. So I'm using my object tool. I'm gonna make a mask for his sleeve. And to add that V space part of his shirt, I'm going to, instead of subtract, I'm going to add to my mask now, adding another area. And I'm going to, again, favor that objects tool, and I'm just gonna draw right there. Good. I do have a little bit of the mask bleeding over to his vest, so if I wanted to be really refined, I could zoom in here, select subtract, and maybe grab a brush and just quickly brush that area just to eliminate it. There we go. I did kind of brush away areas that I didn't want, which is why I don't really like using the brush tool, and you can see why. Okay, again, I'm gonna come down to my point color, use my eyedropper tool, hover to the area that looks kind of blue, and again, desaturating that. And what a huge difference that made. Click fit to zoom back out, turn the masks off completely. So this is without any masking at all, with masking. Without any masking at all, with masking. Now, if I wanted to be a little bit more refined, if I'm being really nitpicky, maybe I could make some adjustments to their skin. So I could come to my plus sign again. Again, I'm gonna select people, person 1. I'm gonna select facial skin and body skin. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pump my shadows to the positive just a little bit, just to brighten her skin. There is a really dark kind of cast happening on her hand that's holding the bouquet. So now what I'm going to do is create another mask. I'm going to use my brush tool, as much as I don't like using my brush tool that much. The reason I'm favoring my brush tool here is it's gonna allow me to create a nice feather, which will allow me to make a really organic adjustment that will blend seamlessly into the other areas of her skin. So I am gonna create that mask here with a little bit of a feather, just to bring up that darkness that's happening. I just feel like it makes her hand look a little limp and almost like she's lost circulation, which is not good. And there we go. That's looking a lot better, I think. So turning that on and off just to see the difference that made. Same thing with mask 3. Really see the difference that made. And we can do the same for him as well. So again, hitting that plus sign, select people, person 2, and we're just going to attack his facial skin here because I think there's also a slight tint to his facial skin that I'm not quite happy with. So we're going to create that mask. I'm going to zoom in to his face here. And now what I'm gonna do, maybe there's just this little tint of green to his skin. So rather than using my point color tool here, I'm actually gonna put a little bit of magenta using my tint slider to just kind of counter that green that's happening and make his skin look a little bit more natural. And I'm not doing much here. I'm really just rocking that tint slider back and forth until his skin looks kind of natural to me. Say maybe there's a little bit of yellow happening in his skin. So if you really wanted to, you could come into the point color, target just that really yellow area of his skin and desaturate it ever so slightly. I mean, ever so slightly, because like, look what happens if I desaturate it a lot, he looks like he has a really weird mask on. So if I double click the word saturation shift there, it will set my slider back to neutral, and I'm very ever so slightly going to desaturate that color in his skin. There, -2 was all I needed. And then turning that mask on and off, it's a very subtle adjustment, but it's there. And if I zoom back out, here we go. This is our image that is nearly ready to go. I think just a couple generative AI edits just to remove maybe this truck in the background that has this really blue that just doesn't match the rest of the scene. Other than that, I think this is ready to go. And that's the power of masking. Bye.